All right, I just wanted to go over this now. This is today was the 31st. This was the AM session. I have the 15-minute time frame pulled up right here. I just wanted to go over something first before we break down the entry. Um, but in terms of right higher time frame order flow, right? Notice how right we've with Asia's expansion right to previous day high on YM, right? Remember that daily external going into internal, right? Once we take this previous day high, this key level, notice that we go into consolidation, right? Which is where London ends up sitting, right? Is in this consolidation, right? And then we know a GXT, right? Can't reverse from consolidation, right? We both assets need to put in a reversal for them to reverse, you know. So when we come into the Hertz in the morning and we see this, phase of price, we see that London's low, right, ends up getting manipulated, right, creating SMT prior to market open, right, and then we can see here, right, 715 gives us a closure on the 15 for a change in state of delivery, right. This series of down close candles, right, that gets manipulated with the SMT closed above, right. So this is now an order block change in the state of delivery, right. So this consolidation has been manipulated, right, which is what causes this pre-initial expansion to take out Asia high prior to market open, right? But the thing that we got to remember here is once that occurs, notice how we're still building, right? Bullish order blocks in PD arrays, right? And so then when we go into the lower time frame, right, prior to market open, this is what we end up getting. And this is what I wanted to go over, right? So we can see here, right? This is where that SMT, right, reversal CSD occurs, right? And then here, notice what happens, right? The manipulation at market open, right? So we already know we're consolidating, right? Just below a higher time frame PD array, right? We have the higher time frame CSDs below us. Okay, and so here this is market open 9:30, right? So at 9:30, and it's important we'll pay attention to YM here. Move this over, right? So at 9:30, right? Notice that YM, right, ends up running down, right? And creating SMT with this low here, right? Which was 815, right? It's low. So now we have this SMT here. Okay. So that happens 9:30. So this was my entry here. Why? Because this manipulation, right? This is just manipulation, right? So because this has occurred, right? Because this has already been rebalanced here prior to this doesn't need to manipulate any lower, right? So this is going to be the protected low. So I enter here, right? And then we end up getting another two stage basically, right afterwards, right? With 36 here. This ends up taking the low, right? You can see that we end up not taking it. Why? Because we're sitting inside of this order block here, right? So, right, 32 gets closed above at 34, right? CSDOB. So if you had not entered 30, right, and you wanted to wait for more, right, you could just wait for the closure here, stop at the OB, right? So anyways, so that was the entry holding to previous day high, and again, going back, we had news at 10 a.m., right? So if the markets have not, right, reversed prior to driver, right, then it will potentially be driver reversal, right? So we finished getting to the draw at 9:59, right, which allows 10 o'clock to potentially create another new phase of price. But it was overall from last night, it was just a two-stage delivery, right? We had this first stage delivery, right, with the consolidation back into right the middle of the range, and then we end up right consolidating, right, which leads to the second stage distribution or expansion for it to catch up to previous day high, right? So that we get the strike switch between YM into NQ, right? So anyways, that was the only two trades I took. So anyways, wanted to go over that real quick before I get into charting later on for tomorrow.